When we were growing up, among those who grew up in the 80s mainly, you remember the Father Christmas of those days. During Christmas times, they would take you to see Father Christmas. We grew up in Jos. Those times, you know where they call the Kingsway, Lantana stores. Kingsway was later Lantana stores. You will be walking in a place that looks like a corridor. Father Christmas will hide by the side. It was every child's dream to see Father Christmas. But even though those times it was fearful, later years, children, they're not more scared about Father Christmas. You notice what happens with the Father Christmas. What you pay for actually is not what he gives you. So Father Christmas, until you grow up, you don't understand that Father Christmas is a deal. It's a business. Meanwhile, I'm not saying the business is bad. No. But it's a deal. You might pay 5,000 and it gives you something of 2,000. Just like there was a cartoon I saw the other day. After huge amount that was paid by a boy's dad to see Father Christmas gave him something that is very low compared to what he paid, the ticket he paid to see Father Christmas. And the guy almost pulled Father Christmas on the beers. That is what you are seeing. During the Civil War, our area, especially the eastern part of Nigeria, we were suffering from different kind of illness associated with war, mainly hunger, kwashiorkor, and the rest of them. We had that island or so supplied us okporoko stockfish for a long while. That was part of what we were eating. And after the war, Igbo still patronize them till today. You want to cook bitter leaf or any of this soup without okporoko for an Igbo man? Now, let me use some common things now too. The apps you use on your phone, some of them are free, but it gets to a point, the creator, the owner of the apps, begin to sell it. Just like CapCut, for example. Most of us creators go to CapCut to remove background of our videos we make. About a month ago or two or so, it was no longer free. It was a free feature on CapCut. It has entered pro version. You have to pay. You have gotten used to it to an extent you cannot do away with it. So let's get to Bill Gates. Bill Gates, the Father Christmas of Africa. Father Christmas. Yes, it is true. Africa's population is fast growing. And at one point, we are around 1.5 billion right now. There is so much hunger. We cannot produce enough to take care of what we will eat, we will consume. And it is projected that by 2050, Africa's population will be around 2.4 billion. So it's like extra 900 million people in Africa. And what are they going to do about feeding? Love for Africa. Love for Africa. I had some people are meeting in Kigali. And next week, they are going to deliberate on how to feed Africa. The plan is going to be a 10 years plan. They want to take care of Africa. And there is a Father Christmas in their midst. Africa Father Christmas. Now, it amazes you that somebody is just so much interested in helping Africa. Really, really, really. He is not a farmer. Even though about, I don't know whether it's up to 10 years ago, I saw in the news, one of the world richest, maybe at that time second or first, he was buying up hectares of land in US, about 100,000 hectares. He is a software billionaire, Microsoft billionaire. But suddenly he was interested in agriculture. Now he's the man behind trying to feed Africa. He has been coming to Nigeria. I heard he's the one who suggested that we are not paying tax enough. Please note, before I forget, is it better to give people fish or to teach them how to fish? Is it better to teach them how to fish or to give them fish? Are we going to sell our tomorrow because of what we eat today? Africa, shine your eyes, oh. The summit, the meeting is next week. They have mapped out 10 years plan to take care of Africa. The Father Christmas from US, who used to be a software man, he's now into agriculture and he is interested in feeding the whole of Africa. He's now a farmer, yes. Large scale. You know, you cannot compare American farming with our own kind of farming here. You can't compare their farming. Theirs is, on a larger scale. Our own is not near. Theirs is 100 times bigger than the kind of farming we do in Africa. And there is what they practice in US. The practice of single cash crop, like maize or soya beans. Mostly from genetically modified hybrid seeds. It is common in the US. Now, how does it work? If such practice is what they will teach Africa, how does it work? You will have to buy the seed from them every year. It is not that our common practice of the past. You know our common practice. When you cultivate corn and you harvest it, there comes a time you will plant next year. So you don't eat all of your corns. What do? You eat some and keep some for planting. But in this case, this style, this software billionaire wants to teach us, that is what they do in most part of America. They want us, you will now send for. You will not have seed. You know, those times we plant, we take some of we eat some and we take some and we hang them in our kitchen. You know, those type of our kitchen of those days, firewood kitchen and stove kitchen. You hang it somewhere because you will plant them next year. You don't have to buy next year. No, you have because it is from your farm. You add some and you keep some for planting. In this case, in this style of their farming, you will have to buy from them, order from them next year. There are companies that are into that already. Companies like Monsanto, you have to contact them. I want to buy seeds so that I can plant. There's a company Bayer, Syngenta. They're already existing. It is a calculated thing. And it's GMO. Many of you know about GMO. I will say what I will say here. Hukidele na baba if you agida na you sabi. This their system requires chemical fertilizers, herbicide and pesticides. You know, it is such an expensive model. Yes, you could say the yield is huge, but can our farmers afford to carry on? They are trying to introduce that US model. The Father Christmas is trying to check my title. Just check my thumbnail. In this case, they will be the one to give you seed to plant. It is no longer the seed that you got from your harvest. You buy seed from them. Hybrid seeds. not that original seeds. Can we afford this? Not just about affording it, other ones that I may not say. They tell you our plants, our farmlands are weak now. They need chemical fertilizers. Maybe they don't need cow shit, hen shit, all those chicken. They don't need it. They need chemical fertilizers so that they'll tell you our crops need protection from bug and disease. And they have companies that will, they are interested in business. Big time. Imagine it comes to a point, we don't have our own seed to plant. And it is some people that are somewhere, or even if they are around, but controlled by people who are somewhere. They're the ones that will sell seed for you. Just check this out. Europe has money to buy gas to take care of themselves. But there was a time in the still ongoing Ukrainian-Russia war that Russia had to stifle the supply to Europe, and is biting hard on them. Do we want it to come to a point somebody can say, I will not give you seed unless you people, just like what happens there's this Asian country around India and Pakistan, maybe Bangladesh also. If India is not comfortable with who is at the helm of affairs, they can decide to blockade them. They will suffer. Block their trailers from food supply or this. Do Africans want it to come to a point they will tell us what to do, or else they will not give us food to eat? Check it out. They said it's a model over there. Really? We have examples here already where such kind of model has been practiced here, and it failed. Failed woefully. Now listen on. Bill Gates' influence on African agriculture through initiatives like the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, AGRA, has been a subject of intense debate. With about 10% of Africa's population facing severe food insecurity, critics argue that Gates' approach to industrial agriculture is not yielding the expected results and may even be exacerbating the problem. Gates advocates for large-scale farming, hybrid seeds, and chemical inputs similar to the US practice. However, traditional farming practices in Africa are often more sustainable, and this model has failed to significantly improve yields or food security for targeted smallholders. In Zambia, for instance, reliance on hybrid seeds and chemical fertilizers have increased vulnerability to climate change, undermining food security. Local leaders like Bishop Takalani Mufamadi and Million Belay criticize Gates' policies for prioritizing corporate profits over local needs and sustainability. They are criticizing it. They are looking at making huge gains. That is the focus, according to some of these critics. Making huge gains. But our own system in Africa, though, produces lower food, but it's more sustainable. And we are in control. We are not dependent. If we continue with our system, Though it may yield low, but we can improve on it. It is better. If we copy their system or follow their system, it might come to a point we depend on them for everything. By then, the only things that will be around are the hybrid seeds. So these people who are already criticizing the Bill Gates approach, they call for reparative actions to address the harm caused by these policies. The Gates Foundation defends its initiative, stating they support national agricultural strategies and emphasize dialogue with stockholders. However, critics argue that opposing voices are marginalized in these discussions. This reminds me of a particular bill during the COVID-19 time. Note, I'm not criticizing anything now, but this particular bill was for the administering of injection to Nigerians. I'm not criticizing it. Through the Speaker of the House of the Representatives, at the point in time, the bill passed its first reading without the knowledge of some of the members of the House. Who knows if somebody has received some huge sum of money so that they will pass the bill and introduce whatever they want to introduce. Then some House members begin to object. How can't we have access to the bill? We are members of the House, yet it has passed first reading already. Can you imagine? According to these people, they said the opposing voices are being marginalized, somehow suppressed in discussions on this matter. Africa, be careful so that it will not come to a point we will not have the original seeds. Now, the hybrids controlled by certain billionaires that will now decide for you whether you eat or not. Remember, if you want to plant next year, you will have to go to them again. Now, in this discussion, here are key concerns. Food security. About 10% of Africa's population faces severe food insecurity. Ineffective solutions. Gates' industrial agricultural approach has failed to yield expected results. Now, the environmental impact. Chemical inputs and hybrid seeds harm the environment and increase climate change vulnerability. Lack of localization. Foreign models of agriculture are prioritized over localized solutions. They are trying to use the foreign model to overshadow our own system, which have profited us, though minimally, but it's more sustainable. The debate surrounding agricultural practices in Africa remains crucial as the continent grapples with food security challenges. Many advocate for more localized and inclusive solutions that prioritize sustainability and traditional farming practices. Now, note again, before we round up, these are some other key points that we need to include. 1. Non-reproducible seeds. Farmers must buy new seeds annually, creating dependency on the supplier. Imagine our own original seeds go into extinction because theirs come in and become dominant. Now we will now depend on them. 2, financial burden. Significant expenses for farmers, especially in low resource settings. How can they fund that? Because things like that are normally in a large scale. 3, vulnerability. Monoculture and reliance on hybrid seeds, chemical inputs increase susceptibility to climate shocks, pests, and economic fluctuations. 4, undermine food security. An example is the Zambia's experience demonstrates decreased resilience and productivity. So when they want to tell you this is how they do it, you give them the Zambia example, which is a copy of what they are doing. Africa, be careful, so that you not come to a point the original seeds will be substituted by the hybrid seeds. The hybrid seeds, you have to buy from them. It is modified to a point. After planting, you cannot get seed for planting. You have to go and buy from them again. Number 5, loss of autonomy. Farmers cannot replant saved seeds. That's what I'm talking about. Exacerbating dependency on agribusiness companies. Those companies I mentioned earlier, they'll be the one that will, you order. They can decide not to send, because the seller can decide not to sell to anybody. And even when they sell, they dictate for you. Can you imagine? You have to rely on somebody for what you will eat. Normally, when I grow corn, I say, just like I told you earlier, when we grow corn, we eat part of the corn and keep reminders for planting season, next planting season. But in this case, you cannot keep any because it will not grow. You have to buy from them again. Number 6, corporate profit prioritization. Critics argue that this model favors profit over sustainability. Local food systems. What are we saying? I think this is where we'll round up. We'll bring you more updates when we gather some again. Thanks for watching. I'm Azoka OJ.